$120,000 in digital product sales in just 3 months. That's exactly what Jason Strimpel was able to pull off just shortly after completing Ship 30 for 30, our community-powered writing course that helps beginners start writing online. And in this video, we interview Jason to hear about his journey, his lessons, mistakes, and we help him chart his path forward to $1 million in revenue over the next 12 months. So sit back, grab a pen, take some notes, and enjoy this interview filled with takeaways that you can apply to your digital business.
So let me just start by saying, being hosted on one of your events is like, whoa. I never thought I'd see my name in a title. So I started with you guys in March last year. So it's almost been a year. And let me just go through the journey of where I went. And I can talk about some lessons learned, how you all really got me addicted to this, like some sort of addict on the street. And then I'll talk about, the blueprints did and kind of how it all came together for me. So I've got a habit of just riffing. So interrupt me at any point. Otherwise I'll just keep going. Okay, so this is me on the left, and then my pseudonymous handle on the right, and I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so this is my very first tweet with you guys on March 8th, 2022. So everybody recognizes this tweet.
One like.
Exactly. Exactly. And that was probably my like, because I have a habit of doing that as well. So this is a year ago, right? And that's where everybody starts with the let's get out on the let's get used to posting in public. Okay, so based on, figuring out what I was doing, this is everything I tried. Okay, so talking about grinding, pivoting, finding a niche. I even talked to our friend Sasha on the right to build me some hyper visuals. I did 2 or 3 of those to try to start to get a grip and a handle on what I wanted to talk about. So I talked about founding startups as an ex-corporate person. I went into product management, and then I niched down to building products and then validating products. I talked about founder well-being, founder burnout, tech founder burnout, leadership, technical leadership, empathetic technical leadership. So I went down and down and down, over and over and over, and grinding and grinding and grinding. And then I pivoted and something hit. Okay, so I put this thread together on my other handle called PyQuant News. And it went bonkers, like viral for like 4 days. So from 1 like in March to 32,000 likes in July. Okay. And you can kind of see on the right what happened. So I was hovering at like 4,000 or 5,000 followers. And then I literally quadrupled my count over a weekend to like 35,000 followers. So I remember posting this on Circle, and something clicked. I was like, holy 4-letter word. Something is happening here. Something is happening here. So talk about, and I should add that this thread was actually from a different thread. So about a week prior, I just posted a list of different interesting open source software tools, right? And this just happened to be the one with the most likes, the most engagement. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. Dickie and Cole tell me, and double down, use the data. So I put together a thread on this. This thread got picked up in a print newspaper in Latin America. Yeah. The founder of this is Portuguese, and he had some connections somehow, and it got into a print newspaper in Latin America. So it went absolutely bonkers. So this was kind of an inflection point for me, and I started really taking it serious. Then in June, I made my first dollar on the internet. So I published an ebook based on some code that I wrote from 2008. Okay. So I did a master's degree in quantitative finance, and I wrote code in 2008. There was some Sunday afternoon, I spent 4 hours getting that code kind of dusted up, and I PDF'd it, and I put it for sale for $8, and I had 7 sales in the first day. That was June 14th. Fast forward, between June 14th and the end of 2022, I had 1,410 sales against 2 products. So in, what is that, 5 months?
Yeah, 5-6 months. Wow.
So just some code that I PDF'd, and I put it on sale. So another signal, right? So something is happening here. I'm getting more serious. My mouth is like, I just basically paid rent. And in July, roughly around the same time, I'm like, screw it, let's start a newsletter. So my very first newsletter, I had 515 subscribers, and I had a 53% open rate. and I have published consistently for 30 weeks. So tomorrow, the 30th newsletter will be issued. Last week, I had 11,840 people, and it's still hovering around a 50% open rate.
Wow.
With 26 unsubs. So tomorrow I'm publishing to 12,000 plus. So if you can do the easy math, it's around 400 new subscribers per week on this newsletter, hovering at around a 50% open rate.
Insane.
Okay. So then in July, I also kicked off LinkedIn because I follow Justin and he's a huge LinkedIn guy. And I'm like, well, I need to start increasing the funnel, right? So on July 11th, I posted my first tweet my first post, and I should add that this is exactly the same thing that I posted on Twitter, the same time, the same day, 0 incremental effort. And now I've got 9,145 followers on LinkedIn. And there is basically 0 incremental effort in using something like Hype Fury, where you just literally, like what Dickie talks about, just reformat, the hook. So you've got the first 5 lines and everything else is the same. And that's exactly what I do. It's like 15 minutes per week of incremental effort. Okay, the course. So I'm finding all this momentum. I'm feeling good. Things are happening. I sign up for the executive program with these guys, and I get access to write the course, which is now part of the yacht program, which highly recommended. I literally follow that thing step by step. Okay. On October 24th, I put a thread together introducing the course, and I had $13,000 in sales in 24 hours. And it was a $145 course. And you can see on the top there, that was the first 24 hours of sales. By the end of between October 24th and November 13th, when the course kicked off, $34,000 in sales. 220 people signed up for the course. I'm now working on my 3rd cohort that starts in March. I'm halfway through my January cohort, so I'm on cohort number 3. I'll get to the total sales numbers in a minute. Point is, though, you can kind of see the momentum going, right? And I should add, and I'm literally not, like, these guys are not paying me. I've paid them a lot of money, right? They are not paying me to say this, but I followed the blueprint. Just do what they say, okay? So here's the results. This is as of today. So $96,000 in course sales since October 24th. $14,257 in ebook sales since July. 12,000 subs, 89,000 followers on Twitter. And I started that account like April-ish, and 9.3 thousand on LinkedIn. So what have I learned? And what are the key things that I've taken away? So you'll learn a lot of tactics, right? I kind of bucket it into 2 things. So the fundamentals are you need to learn how to write, full stop. Like that's table stakes. That's how you get into the game. That's how you get on the field, get off the bench. You need to learn how to write online. And there's a very particular way of doing it, as we all know, being in Ship 30. The key kind of 3 or 4 things that I found that these guys talk about constantly. One is more tactical. You have to know how to write a hook. Like, you have to know how to write hooks, because otherwise you owe it to your audience to write hooks. Otherwise, they're just going to scroll past. So think of it that way, right? And as Dickie says in his Mr. Beast kind of walkthrough, which I've used multiple times. Actually, I just looked at it last week to remind myself. It's not clickbait if you deliver on your promise, right? So just deliver on your promise. The biggest lesson I've learned is you have to give away your value, and you have to do it consistently. It has to be high quality, and you have to do it for a very, very long time. That's the way that you earn trust, and that's what gets people prepared to give you money. If they don't trust you, they're not going to part with their money. It doesn't matter if it's $1 or $1,000. They have to trust you. And then finally, I found luck doubling down on what works. So you saw the first slide. I tried 11 different things. I didn't get any signal. I did that for 5 months. And then I did one thread. It went bonkers viral for 4 days. Okay, that's pretty clear signal that something works. And then with the captain's table, all the blueprints in the captain's table, I mean, everything that Cole writes is gold, full stop. Like all of, that YouTube stuff that he did, I mean, it's platinum. Okay. So the things that I took away that were the most useful were how to repurpose, because I have a full-time job. I work for Amazon Web Services. It is bloody intense. I have 2 kids. I get up at 4 a.m. every single day, even Christmas morning, 7 days a week, to treat this as a job. I don't have time to mess around, right? So you have to learn how to repurpose your content, and you can do that very easily. That's key. Differentiating your writing. So one of the things that I took away from Cole is, you can differentiate your writing in different ways. And the way that I did it is I'm writing about quantitative finance, which is technical, it's dense. Like everybody who writes about this stuff tries to stroke their own ego and sound super smart. So I took the exact opposite approach, and I write like for a 5-year-old. Like no words that I use have more than 2 syllables. And I actually check. If I've got more than like 10% of my words have 2 syllables, then I rewrite them. So that's one way to do it. So I learned there's all these techniques. Formatting for readability, that's a tactic, but it really helps to get people kind of rolling down screen. Structuring the headlines. So he's got this walkthrough, like Cole, you use the different colors, like this is who you write to, this is why, and you've got all these like who, what, why, all this kind of structure. Again, you just practice it and it becomes second nature, but absolutely critical. The niche stuff, again, absolutely critical. And that was probably the hardest thing for me, was it's so uncomfortable. You're like, I don't want to polarize my audience. I want their money too. I want their attention too. I want their audience too. Well, the problem is that they're not going to give it to you. And what you want to do is like get rid of those folks that don't care about what you have to write anyway, and focus your attention on the people that do care. Really hard. I'm still struggling with that. I think what I write is even still too broad, and I'm just learning after a year that I probably need to get even more niche, and I'm still figuring that out based on talking to people through my course. And then the Snow Leopard book, it's awesome. And the key takeaway from the Snow Leopard, and sorry, Dickie, I'm talking about Cole here, but the Snow Leopard book it teaches you about like obvious problems, non-obvious solutions, right? And when I was going through building my course, that was what I spent most of my time thinking about. The obvious problem was that people don't know how to get started with with Python programming language. The obvious outcome that people want is to use this tool to do stuff. Well, my non-obvious solution was, don't take tutorials, start from a problem that you actually have and learn just enough coding to get that problem done. And that's completely different than what everybody else will tell you. So I spent like a lot of brain cycles thinking about this and trying to position my course as different in that way. And so far it's been working. So lessons learned, everybody kind of wants to know what mistakes to avoid. So it's all mental. Like everything that everybody says about this game is right. Everything you learn from Dickie and Cole is right. They make it seem, it's the curated, best practice, honed course, so you get the best content, but it's hard. It's very hard. You'll go through very frustrating periods where you're staring at a headline, you're like, God, I don't want to do this. Or you just get completely stuck, and they give you the tactics, but ultimately it comes down to you. Tactics are not going to save you. You have to have the want, and you have to fight through that frustration. And the other thing I learned is the journey is messy. Like this is super messy. And I think a lot of people kind of see the best of the journeys from all of the winners, right? There's survivorship bias online, and you're speaking to two of the best in the game. And you're just going to see like, Dickie's cappuccino breakfast, and the Notebook, and everything's just perfect, right? It's not like that. It's hard, right? And he goes through it too. I guarantee it. I just met Justin Welsh, and we had a conversation last week, and he goes through it too. And he's like another elite person in this game. So it is messy and it's hard. Prepare to pivot. So I was so married to having my face attached to my writing. It was such an ego play that I was like fighting going to my PyQuant News handle. Even though I was kind of starting to see evidence, I was like, I've got to make this work. Just detach your ego from the game. It is not worth it. Standing on the shoulder of giants. So like Ship 30, incredible. The Captain's Table, incredible. Justin's courses are incredible. I just got plugged into Mastering ConvertKit by Brennan Dunn. My mind is like absolutely exploding. Like this is my 2023 2023 game is to figure out marketing, like automated marketing, different dimension. Like we're talking string theory here. But don't try to reinvent it. Like just stand on the shoulders of people who have figured it out before you, because there is a formula. It's just a really noisy formula. Like I said, everything you read is right. Like everything these guys talk about who have won, it's right. You just kind of need to follow the blueprint. And then I think something also that is easy to forget is that, you got to separate the creative part from the business part. Like Dickie and Cole are running a business, right? Part of that business is creating content, but they're running a business. When you're just starting, forget about the business. All you need to do is spend your time getting creative, getting the audience, earning trust, like the fundamental parts of creating content. And then you start to worry about the tools. I'm only now actually using ConvertKit other than just to send emails, literally this week. And I've been at this since, I'm on my 30th issue. I've got 12,500 subscribers. I'm just segmenting my audience, like literally this week for the very first time. So don't get caught up in that. Focus on the content. Okay, so after an entire year, or I'd say 11 months, that's where I've gone. That's what I've learned. So I'll stop there, answer questions, anything.
First of all, I just want to say I think I'm gonna have trouble sleeping probably for like 2 weeks with how hyped I feel after watching this. Like, first of all, just appreciate you putting this together, because I think showing the whole arc for people is extremely helpful. Second of all, incredible props to you, because yes, we talk about these things over and over and over again, but it's messy, it's difficult, it's non-linear, and that's just worth double clicking on and celebrating, which is just amazing. And third, just appreciate you paying it back and being willing to share with people and go, this is how it works. And I think like the biggest thing that I want to pluck out for everyone, and you like glossed over it, but you were like, oh yeah. And like, I had lunch with Justin Welsh last week or whatever. And the thing that is so unspoken about this whole game is once you start actively playing it, all the other people who are actively playing it are very quick to welcome you into it. Like, there's a reason why all the course people know all the course people. There's a reason why like the Twitter thread people all know the Twitter thread people. Like these worlds, we're all looking for friends, and we're all looking for people who care about it and play the same game that we do, And so I think that's one of the coolest byproducts, is how much your own network has now expanded just as a result of you going, I'm playing the game too.
Yep.
It's really cool.
So true. And I mean, in Justin's case, like, and I should add it, and one of the thing I didn't say is, like, when I say stand on the shoulder of giants, like if you look at my website, if you look at most of my newsletter structure, it is, I'm not going to say copy and paste, but it's very closely mimicking them, right? And I brought this up to him. I'm like, I'm using a lot of what you're using. And he's like, that's why I'm here. Like, that's the whole game. And, it is that support mechanism. And even working with you guys and Daniel and I have been chatting about, automation and kind of the marketing bit of it and the business part of it. Super helpful. Yeah.
Blown away.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, look, this is, I don't know where to go from here, because where my head goes is, you just started mastering ConvertKit. I bought that course in August of 21. Mm-hmm. And that single-handedly accelerated everything for us. And so to see you there is like, excites me even more, because now you're scratching the surface of like, how do you actually scale this thing from 100K to 1 million? Mm-hmm. Because that, like, the only difference between what you're doing now and 10X is building the email list and doing more of what you're already doing. Right. And so it's email course, it's lead magnet. And if you just if you continue, because you now you have followed the Ship 30 playbook, right? Start, bootstrap get validation, bootstrap a course is working. People love it. How do you get more of them in there? Mm-hmm. And so if I was going to advise you, it's 13,000 word ultimate guide on getting started with PyQuant for finance into a 7-day email course, build that in ConvertKit using Brennan Dunn's framework, and you're going to triple 5X from there. Like, it's so cool to see you take a blueprint in a completely different niche, and it validates for us of like, how can we productize what you've done? Because I go look at your Twitter. If you look at the PyQuant news and pull up Twemex on the right, it's like every viral thread that Cole and I have ever written, just redone for PyQuant finance. It's awesome. It's amazing. And so when you're like, just follow the playbook, it's as simple as that. It's
Yep.
write about Bloomberg terminals instead of Twitter advanced search.
Yep.
Like same idea here. And so I look at where your trajectory is, and to hear that you just downloaded Master and Convert Kit, it's like, oh yeah, because that's going to accelerate things even more.
I mean, I would say that I've probably, of 100% of the content that you guys built in Ship 30 and Captain Stable, I've probably consumed 90% of it. Not only that, but I put into action most everything that you say. I mean, even from literally writing down ideas, which I've done through the the idea generator, all the way through to like being very specific and formulaic about how I create headlines. It works, right? And I think it's just a mental game at that point. Like you're giving people the door, but you need to, they need to lead themselves through the door kind of thing. And that's at least what I got out of it, was that all the mechanics are there, the tactics are there, the strategy's there. You borrow bits and bobs from other creators, like the Justin's got this like choose your enemy kind of thing, like an ideology. I rail against PhDs and getting a master's because I spent $90K in a master's degree, and I could have probably gone without a master's degree, right, and still done the same path. So that's like kind of so you pick these kind of strategies and things from the different creators, but you guys pack a lot into the course and to the blueprints that you give.
Yeah.
And I think we glossed over it, but 2 kids, 4 a.m. every single day, a level of intensity and effort that I think people look at the result and they go, oh, this took a lot, and it's going to continue taking a lot. Yeah. Right. And so first, enjoy that, because here's what's going to happen is all this is going to replace your Amazon job here soon. And you're going to get out of there just like I did. Yeah. And I look back on 2021 where same thing, working 8, up at 4, Ship 30 till 7, stressed all day that like my boss was going to find out about Ship 30 and I was going to get fired. And then like would shut down at 5 p.m., eat dinner, and then work till 10 on whatever Ship 30 was doing. So I remember that being like, and Cole was there and Daniel was there and other people were there. And I was like, I relished in that time. That was fun. Like, yeah, it sucked, but relish in that time, because it's soon you're going to have the paradox of too much time. Yeah. It's going to take over, and then you're going to have, so that would be my advice. Like, enjoy that journey. But also I appreciate you sharing that part, because I think other people need to hear it. They need to hear that to do this kind of thing takes a level of volume and intensity that is extremely uncomfortable for a long period of time.
I think that's it. Well, now it's like, I mean, I think it's becoming slightly unhealthy. Like when I started Mastering ConvertKit, I was like waking up at 3 a.m. excited to get started. I'm like laying there for 20 minutes. I'm like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to go do it now. And I'll just get up, make like a pot of coffee, and then just get into it, just because of how excited. And this, I mean, for me personally, it just hooked. It's like a good fit for my personality for whatever reason. Like, it's just hooked me in a way. And like early on, I mean, I've made lifestyle changes. Like, I quit drinking. I get up early, there's like, and I know you did too, Dickie, but there's some sacrifices that I've made, and you have to be willing to weigh those trade-offs and say, am I willing to take a call on a Saturday instead of spending time with my friends, family, kids, whatever? Am I willing to go to a party and not drink and not enjoy the same way other people do because I got to get up at 4 a.m. to do my thing? Like, these are the kind of sacrifices and trade-offs that you have to make if you want to get like what you guys are doing. And I'm aspiring to do what you guys do, right? And that kind of leads me to another point, is there's this kind of, mantra about, follow the person that's just a couple steps ahead of you and teach those. I didn't buy into that at all. Like, I didn't look at somebody with 10,000 followers. I looked at you guys. I modeled what I did after you. I modeled what I did after Justin. I modeled basically you guys, the 3 of you, Ship 30 and what Justin's doing. Because my theory was that if it's working for you, it can work for me too. And hence a lot of my threads are the same kind of style. My newsletter framework, it's the same kind of thing. I use Justin's like pick your ideological enemy. And you guys are just better at things than I am. So I'm just borrowing what you're doing. So I guess a piece of advice is don't necessarily limit yourself to finding someone that's just ahead of you. Maybe you can talk to them and engage with them, but find an example, find a mentor. And I know, Dickie, you wrote about this, like your best mentors don't even know you. I mean, as of a couple of weeks ago, they didn't know me either. And that's okay. Like if Sahil Bloom is your mentor and everything he does is amazing to you, he doesn't have to know you, just do what he does. Right. So something that I learned and I kind of worked exactly shameless cloning. I mean, I'll just say shameless stealing. Like there's no copyright on any of this stuff. So
here's what, there's some nuance to that point though, of looking to the people ahead of you, because you looked at us and said, I want to get there, but you didn't try to only do what we're doing now. You have followed where we went to get here.
True.
So you followed the versions of us at that different point in the journey, right? So I think that is important, because it's not like you sit down and say, wow, they're only doing this now, I'm just going to copy what they're doing. Like, I'm going to now launch a 4-week ghostwriting intensive, or, it's no, I will get there, and you will, once you nail in a front end and back end on this course. Right.
Sure.
And then you keep going like that. So I think that is the right framework to think about, is look at the people you admire, but then especially on something that compounds exponentially, do not compare what you're doing now to what they're doing now. Look at what they're doing at that point. And here's what's kind of funny. Like you mentioned a one-off atomic essay that I wrote in November about my mentors not knowing I existed. And so it's clear that you've paid attention and consumed what we put out. Right. And I greatly, greatly appreciate that, because that's kind of our goal here, is we want to put out the things that if you follow end up working out. And so I just don't want to like gloss over that point of you referencing a atomic essay I wrote in November of like, you're doing this every day.
It's more than paying attention, Dickie. It is like studying.
Yeah.
It goes beyond. It's not just paying attention and reading your stuff and kind of moving on. I recognize, and this is not like to stroke the ego or anything, I think this is just a fact, but I recognize you guys as the top of the game. And I think I said this to you, like when I was talking to you about the executive tables, like you're at the top of the game. I want to be there too. So I'm going to follow in your footsteps. And that was my goal. So I was just very intentional about what I studied and who I studied. And, you were them. And Justin was them, and it's really between you two that I've followed. But to your point around like following, right? So I think that's a great point. It'd be like looking at Ship 30 and saying, tomorrow I want to start Twitter, or tomorrow I want to start a 10-figure business. That's not going to happen. But I think to refine what I said, which was a little bit vague, but I'll look at the best newsletter person, and I'll study how they do newsletters. And I'm like, okay, I'm at the point in my journey where I want to do a newsletter. So let me go find who's the best at newsletters, pick what I think is reasonable, like to get started. So I need a general outline. I'm not going to rewrite a newsletter without a structure every single time. So let me go find how people write newsletters, or I need a blueprint to build a course. I'm not going to go rewrite a marketing page because I have zero experience in marketing. So let me go find who's doing the best marketing. So then I got write the course, right? So at whatever point at which you are, like there's steps, like I'm going to do an ebook, I'm going to do newsletter, I'm going to do this and that and that. That's, I think, where you can kind of pick a mentor and study what they do and then improve where you are on that journey. I think that's what I meant.
Yeah, this is why we use the gaming metaphor quite a bit, because it really is so it's we're just talking about one big video game, and if you want to learn certain skills, just go seek out the person who has that skill, and it's very easy. But all of this has the asterisk of, but you have to want to do it.
Yeah.
You have to genuinely want to go on the journey. And Dickie and I, we talk about this. We probably could talk about it more, but neither one of us, I think, thought or knew Ship 30 today was possible 2 years ago. Like we had no idea. I remember when I started it, I remember telling my fiance, I was like, this seems kind of cool. And she was like, yeah, that'll be a nice little side project for you. You love writing. It's going to be so fulfilling for you, And I was like, yeah, I'm really excited about it. Like I think that's true for every creator. Justin, he had no idea this was going to happen. No one knows. You just have to be game to go on the journey and kind of figure out what that looks like for you. And that barbell of, is it something you genuinely enjoy? And is it moving in the direction of achieving whatever goal you set for yourself? It could be a financial goal. It could be I want to meet people goal. It could be a creative goal, whatever that is.
Yeah. I mean, Ship 30, the goal was $10,000 in a year. I said that would be absolutely life-changing if that happened.
It was life-changing.
It was.
Something else though, like, I mean, you mentioned like fear of failure is when I launched, I wasn't even done with the content. I had half the content written for that course.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, well, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to bloody do it. I'm not going to do it over the Christmas holiday. Then it'll be 2023. I'll just never do it. I was terrified when I pushed that button. A, that nobody would sign up, that I would just get crickets, which I think ultimately is an ego thing. And B, people would sign up and I'd be having blank slides. And B happened. And instead of like freaking out, not doing it, I just kept going. And you will get it done, I think was the other thing. How many mistakes have you guys made? How many mistakes have I made? Like I would post something and have like half the tweets wouldn't even come out because Hype Theory would crash, or a misspelling or a link to the wrong place. I had a newsletter with a real obvious typo in the subject line. Like stuff happens, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's what you guys talk about. Like nobody cares.
No. Yeah. I love when it doesn't happen a lot, but like maybe every 6 months, there'll be a Slack message from one of us that's like, whoops, I just published something to 40,000 people on ConvertKit on accident. Sorry. And it's like, what? Okay, who cares?
Oh, well, nobody cares.
Yeah. It's funny on that because it feels like the end of the world because you see 60,000, but then you have to go think about how many times you've just gotten an email and like you have 100 emails sitting there. So it feels like the end of the world of like 60,000, but no one knows that 60,000 people just got it. But I want to pause for a second and read. I'm looking back in our DM group chat because I think this is extremely just an interesting thing to look at. So Jason, Cole, and I have a Twitter group chat as part of Jason being an executive captain. And when he joined the captain's table after we invited him, you asked a question. I need some advice. Can I set up a 20-minute Zoom call with you guys for help? That was like one of your first things. And so at the time, right, very beginner, we said, hey, can't take one-on-one calls. If you have any questions, could you throw them in circle? Because that's kind of the way we operate. And then you sent like 4 or 5 other messages of like, I run a handle. It dawned on me, like, I want to monetize, want to chat about it. And then that was at 7:51 p.m. and we didn't answer. And 5 hours later, so this is April 15th. You said, this was poorly formed. Sorry about that. I'll post something in circle that better fleshes out these thoughts and I'll tag you guys. And so that to me, like rereading that level of awareness of like, I came into this chat, asked too much. And then 3 months later, right? So April to June, the next message from you and in all that time was thanks for the shout out on the last mastermind. Like, because between April and June, you basically said, okay, I'm not going to say I need to go get these guys to I'm just going to consume everything they've put out, which is what you did. And in that 3 months, everything changed. And then in July, you were like, what I want to do next is take PyQuant News to $1 million. Let's get on board the executive. Mm-hmm. It's just so cool to see that trajectory of like, I need all this help. Oh, wait, no, I don't. It's all there for me. I'm going to execute that playbook. Then when I actually need way more, I will come back. And that's exactly how it worked.
And just for everybody on the call, I'm not like a groupie. They were actually responding to me. It wasn't me just like banging them with messages.
Yeah.
But that first message, Dickie, that was like a month. That was an executive captain. That very first message was like a month after I started Ship 30.
Oh yeah. This was pre-cap. That was right when you just joined Captain's Table, like just finished Ship 30.
That's right.
And so it was like, look, sorry, we can't be doing one-on-one calls.
Yep.
And then I think so many people could have gotten that and been like, this isn't worth it. Like, okay, whatever, taking it in a certain way. And instead, you took a extreme ownership right after that, where literally 3 months later, the next message was like, oh yeah, I have 20,000 followers. I've done this. Here's like because my response to that was, hey, what are your next steps? And you laid out like, okay, I'm going to launch a $150 cohort. And that's what I'm building every morning right now. Like, just so cool to see. Just so cool.
Yeah. Something I want to double click on. Jason, go to the slide where you showed all the things that you tried, all the different topics. Like, it's interesting because now that we've had thousands, probably, I mean, what, Dickie, after this cohort, we're closer to 10,000 people than we are zero, of people who have gone through Ship 30. And what's interesting about working with so many people is you create pattern recognition just because you see so many of the types of questions or so many of the like archetypes of people that go through Ship 30, go through Captain's Table and things. And one of the things that I observe the most is when someone is still in this phase. So this slide, they're in the phase of the journey of I'm still figuring things out, and then I'll speak for myself. They might DM me or tag me on Circle or something and go, how do I launch a course? And my feedback is, hey, you're still here and you still have some work to do. You got to gain clarity here before you're ready for this, And what I notice is a lot of times that gets interpreted as like, oh, you don't want to help. You don't want to be helpful. And it's like, no, the most helpful thing that I can do is not give you a shiny object. Mm-hmm. That's the most helpful thing I can do because I know, and I've been through it. Dickie's been through it. We've been through it. You see the pattern over and over and over again. And I think what's hard is for each individual person, like trusting whatever phase you're in and just going like, I am still in the phase where I'm writing about 17 different things and I haven't figured out what's clicking yet.
Yep.
And it's like the most helpful thing we can do is literally just like encourage you to not quit there. You don't need a shiny object. You don't need a 60-minute Zoom strategy call. You don't need any of those other things, and that I think that's the hardest thing for people to sit with is be like, I'm here and it's just, I have to just sit here for right now.
Totally. Like, I mean, even you, Dickie, you say, monotonous consistency. This is not a fast moving thing, right? It picks up, but the base layer is literally writing every day. That's it. That's the base layer. And the more you write, the thicker that base layer is. But it's like, everybody is like that. Attention deficit. I mean, we are operating in an attention economy. That's literally what we're doing here. We are selling our products for people's attention. That's what we're doing. And you can really easily get sucked into that. And not only like, instead of writing in Twitter, scroll Twitter, but like, that's why I waited for Master and Convert Kit, because I knew I wasn't ready. Like, I knew I wasn't ready to get, because that's a rabbit hole, right? And I knew that I needed to spend some focused time on that specific thing. And it's similar to anything that you do. And like, I think the best advice I can do, it's, looking for signal is not just posting tweets, right? That's not the only way you can get signal. You can do an ebook. You can do a free download. You can do a 1-page document. Like, people do that kind of stuff all the time. You can talk to people. My DMs are open. I got 90,000 followers. I'm fielding DMs every single day because it brings me closer to the people that care about what I have to say. And that gives me signal. When I did the course, I think I sent you guys a picture, but somebody like pinged me a DM and said, please launch a course. And I started getting some of those. I'm like, okay, this is an inflection point. Like people are begging me for this course, or people like close the cohort and people like begging me to get into the cohort. So I let 10 more people in the day of the cohort, right? These are all signals. So the signals take different forms and they look different depending on where you are in the journey. So just keep your mind open and look for evidence, I think is probably a good way to say it. Like, is there evidence to suggest that you're ready to move to the next thing?
Yes.
And I just happen to see really obvious slap you in the face kind of evidence to say, move on to that next thing.
Extremely well said. Jason, I just want to say thank you again for putting this together. I mean, this was, it's funny. I try and point this out whenever we do live sessions so that other people see that we do this in real time. But like my signal from this Zoom call is, oh, well, when we have a success story, we should put together a presentation template. And then the person comes to the captain's table and does this sort of presentation. And thanks for showing me that. I just reverse engineered it all into a template in my head.
It's all yours.
Give that to each person. Like this is happening in real time. We are doing this right now. And that's the process. It's the forever process.
Yep. And anytime, because it's a scale business, right? Anytime you can template things, I'm with you for sure.
I mean, this is the beauty of the captain's table is that it's only a year old. The very first, like, we had the membership back in 2020 that all it did was give you access to new Ship 30 cohorts. But like putting these frameworks into practice, we're going to continue to see these compound. Like, Jason, you're going to be the first one to hit $1 million unless someone catches you. But tons of people are going to hit $100,000 here soon. And tons of people are going to hit 10,000. And that is what's going to start compounding very quickly here. And that is extremely exciting to think about. And it's starting to click for us is that we are just a little bit ahead on the journey. Like I want to go and look at where Ship 30 was when it hit 100 grand. And the goal is to accelerate the process for everyone else, right? Because you were able to go from tweet to 100 grand in 3 months because you got to follow this playbook, right?
Yep.
So if we can continue to just condense, like, what is it that actually works here? And that's Cole and I's job, because what we're about to do is launch a ghostwriting high ticket coaching program. What do you think we're going to do after we figure out that process? We're going to help other people do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of our flywheel, right? Try something new. Like we are going to construct a brand new offer from the start. And once that works, same thing like we'll do with Write the Course. It'll be Write the Coaching, whatever. You know? And so
you guys should hook up with Brennan Dunn. Mm-hmm. Or, and I look at it a certain way. I'm going to say this and then Cole's going to imagine a new product, but I look at it as a VC portfolio. Like if you look at every single creator you're taking through the journey as a startup that has a power law distribution of returns, you're going to have the big winners. And I think the onus is on you guys to deconstruct and work backwards from what's working for those, for the high tail, and incorporate that being in the course. But at the same time, like, what if you guys took stakes in every creator that you put through, right? And, that's just kind of where my mind goes, is you've got this huge 6,000 people who've gone through this process and operated against this playbook. Like you're going to have a group of people that are doing something pretty magical. And how do you stay connected, and how do you keep teaching and pushing them down the journey until they kind of plateau, and then they're teaching you stuff, because that's going to happen at some point, I think.
Yep.
And now we're at a point where you're asking us, hey, when is the advanced course marketing or these 3 or 4 other things? And so Cole and I are like, how do we continue to make things available that help people who are working through faster? Right. Yep. So it's all there. This has me extremely excited.
Yeah. I'm like, do I need to go like squat for 2 hours now? I feel like I could run through a wall after this.
This stuff gets me so amped. I could talk about it. Like Brian and I talk, and I just feel myself getting like super amped up every time we have a conversation. I do like take a deep breath after. Well, it's a good time to go take a walk, right? And contemplate, take your notebook, leave your phone at home, all this stuff.
That's right. Well, thank you again for sharing.
That's amazing. Thanks for having me on.
So cool. Yeah. So cool. And everyone, I feel like, who got to watch this live, I think we all shared the same magical feeling of being like, whoa, this is really cool. So everyone that's here, I'm glad we all got to experience this too.
Yeah, and happy to help. Just reach out if anybody's got questions. I do fall into the shiny ball syndrome. So if you DM me, I'll respond. And then Dickie and Cole, if you're looking to work on some more stuff, beta test, get some feedback, stay in touch, can help out.
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.